Okay. It's 8:30. I'd like to call the meeting, the Brookings County Commission meeting with a pledge of allegiance. Item number 3 is an invitation for a citizen to schedule time on the commission agenda for an item not listed. Is there anybody here? It doesn't look like it, so we'll move on to the approval of the agenda. We have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
With a motion and second, any additions or corrections?
On our executive session, a couple of other brief discussions along with personnel, 125, SDCL 125.24 for contract negotiations and 125.26 for security.
125-24 and 125-26.
No, 125, 1-25-2 parentheses 4 and parentheses 6.
Okay. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Consent agenda items. We have approval of the minutes, approval of travel requests, approval of personnel action notices, approval of cellular authorizations, and approval of the human services report. Do I have a motion to approve?
Move approval. Second.
Any additions, corrections here? No. Call the roll, please.
Pierce.
Aye.
Bartley.
Aye.
Krogman.
Aye.
Boersma. Aye. Jensen.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Moving on to routine business, approval of the claims. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any additions, corrections here? Hearing none, call the roll call, please.
Bartley.
Aye.
Krogman.
Aye.
Boersma. Aye. Pierce.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item B, department head reports. Brian, would you like to start?
Morning.
Morning.
January Brookings SDSU Day intro on Zoom and listened in on that. 27th, we had a progress meeting for the Bruce Bridge, and the north abutment is prepared for concrete. North bent coffer dam is placed, excavated, dewatered, and sand for the Topeka Shiner. Rock placement was done last week, and they're driving pile yesterday, so they're moving right along with that. Sioux Falls construction is currently on schedule for what they originally gave us. They're right in there, and with that being said, I know we're going to consider the load limits that we annually place, and they will have the majority of all work done on the north side of that structure, hopefully within the month of March. So they'll be moving to the south side as soon as they finish that north bend. So we're going to allow them to use that little stretch between Bruce and the bridge to continue working during that time frame, but that road should be able to handle it. So just trying to keep them on schedule. The weather's cooperated with us so far, so that's looking good. And I know the Sinai Bridge, we've gotten some action on it finally. We'll be considering the right-of-way donations later here in the meeting, the utilities, and the right-of-way forms that we have to fill out. And as soon as we get back to the state, we're looking at probably a late spring letting for that bridge. So finally getting some action on that.
Any questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Lori?
Good morning. Things that I have been thinking about changing in the office, one being the way we pay cell phones. Right now, you get a check for your cell phone reimbursement, and I'd like to make that direct deposit. I don't know if it would be included with the pay stub yet, or if it would be a total separate deposit, but I just think that would be more efficient and easier for people receiving those checks if it was direct deposit. Yeah. Okay, so that's one thing. The other is, I've been looking at the way that we do our annual report, and we do the GASB 34 or GAP versus cash basis. And I'm thinking I would like to change that for a few reasons. Number one, it's going to be far less time consuming. We're talking 2.5, 3 months of work versus 2 days. There's only two other counties that do the GASB 34 anymore. Everybody else has switched back to cash. We would still track everything the same way, budgeting, receivables, payable, inventory, all of that would still be tracked. It would just be a more condensed report. Right now, the GASB 34, if you've looked at it, it's just so repetitive information, just different ways of doing it. So I've been in touch, talking with Jeff, who's here from State Legislator, and talking to him about it, and I reached out to both Pennington and Minnehaha, and Pennington wishes they could switch, but they can't right now. So it is a doable thing. It needs a resolution. So I kind of plan on bringing that to you guys at one of the next meetings. If you had questions on it, I could certainly set up a time for Jeff from Legislative Audit to come to and answer any questions you had.
Any questions? Mr. Krogman?
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea, just the differences and the pros and the cons of each.
Right, right.
Would be a good idea for us to make that type of decision. You know, not opposed to it, by any means, haven't really thought about it, but I think it'd be good just to hear both sides of why this was
Exactly.
originally,
Right.
and why we don't need it anymore, or what are we gaining, same type of thing.
Right,
So,
right. So I'll set him up on the agenda for next time, hopefully, and he can answer any questions you guys have.
Just a little history on that too. We've been talking about this with
Oh,
Vicky.
for
I think
years.
every year that the annual report becomes due, we discuss
Yeah,
this very topic, and we just never moved forward. It's one of those things where the annual report gets done, it gets filed, and then you kind of forget about it, and then year end comes around again, and
we say, why did we
why
not
didn't we do this?
talk
Why
about
didn't we
this?
look
Yeah.
into doing this? And what this eliminates is going to cash basis. Everything is driven by just
A
the
date. Yep.
date that you get the invoice. So we wouldn't have payables. So we're not paying 2020 claims, for instance, into January. It's anything that we receive for bills in
Yep.
2020 would get paid. Hard stop. Once we flip the calendar, any bills that come in, now it's out of the 21 budget. So you're going to see a little bit of a hit to that first year is going to be a little bit, it's going to kind of lag because we've
Yep.
already paid, bills out of 1 year for the past year kind of thing. And so there's that's the biggest change with that. So, but that does make it so much easier for budgeting, I think, because as of the end of November, you see your budget for December and you know exactly, like, whatever bills come in now, this is the budget I have left. You don't have to worry about, okay, bills that come in December and then what other bills may be still coming into January that I have to account for. So it's a little bit easier that way. And then the annual report is literally a couple of pages.
Right.
We were told, and I think ever since I've been with the county, we've been doing the full gap reporting. We were always told back in the days when I was doing it that all the counties are going to be going this way. All the counties are going to be going to full gap. Well, history has shown that all counties now are actually going back to cash basis. If they did, they went back. The only two are Minnehaha and Pennington. And I believe, in discussions that Lori has had, part of that was because, well, the reason that I think Pennington is specifically hasn't gone to cash is because they have a bond that specifically states in the bond documents that they have to do full GASB 34 gap reporting. Lori had conversations with our folks, Tom Grimmond and First Bank and Trust, and they said there is nothing in our bond documents that say that. That language has kind of gone away now. So otherwise, I think those other bigger counties would probably be looking at doing that too in May once their bond has been paid off. So we are literally one of 3 counties that do what we do the way we do it. So, but I think it would be good to get Jeff here and have that discussion with him as well.
Yeah, and every year, the people who are doing the gap pull in people from legislative audit to help them do it. Cash is not that way. Cash can be done pretty quickly. And we avoid the negatives, in reports because we don't have to pull that stuff back. Also, it greatly limits the time that they are here auditing. It's easier for them too, so. But yeah, I will set him up.
All right.
Sounds good.
Any more questions? Thank you. Bob?
Good morning. Annual report, and we'll just go through it real fast. We have not seen an economic downturn in the Brookings County Development Department. From the planning and zoning side, we played musical chairs with our chairpersons for a little bit in the beginning of the meeting. Our former chairperson, her job moved her down to Sioux Falls, so she had to resign, and then we brought in another chairperson, and he got reelected for 2021, so all is good. We had 11 regularly scheduled meetings. If we don't have something on the agenda, we don't typically meet, so we had 11 meetings. We had 3 joint city-county planning commission meetings in January, February, and March. Obviously, we put a halt to all that because of COVID-19, and we're going to have to figure out a way to get that kick-started again here pretty soon. We heard 24 conditional use permits. One of them was denied, and one of them was tabled until we're hearing it starting today, just tonight. We granted 16 variances. 2 were withdrawn, and in 2019, we had 11 variances total. And once again, on that conditional use permit, we had only 12 in 2019, and it doubled to 22 in 2020, so that was definitely an increase. The plats also increased. We went up to 29 plats. In 2019, we had 18. We had no rezoning request and no appeals at this time, or for the whole last year. At the end of the year, I lost 3 of my board members. They resigned, some for health, some for other reasons. We don't delve too much into, if they don't want to be on the board, we don't necessarily want them on the board. And we understand if they've served, over 20 years and desire to typically retire, or if they've got health issues, that's fine by all means. We want to support our county citizens, to include our board members. The planning and zoning, our zoning ordinance update is ongoing. We are finishing up some of the fine details from the First District of Association of Local Governments, and we're assembling books. We're going to have a review session with the state's attorney's office, county commissioner, and then my department. So that's just about ready to get started. And I did attend the American Planning Association digital conference back in April. On building permits, we issued 150 building permits. just under $20 million worth. Our building permit fees herself was $34,303, and the inspection fees brought in was $21,600. Of interest of the inspection fees, that's the money we brought in and we basically hold, and then when the inspection's done, we pay back out to the guy. Sometimes you'll see our budget process, we'll have more than that than what we brought in for the previous year, because we still got outstanding inspections from years before, and we'll go through that in a little bit. There's the breakdown. I'm not going to bore everybody on going all the way down the line, but you can see, if you have any specific questions on one of those breakdowns on what the building permits were for, please let me know. And you may notice that, and then we get to the outstanding building inspections, and you can see we're actually narrowing that down quite well. Our building inspector's going out, he's being proactive. He knows, he keeps a list of who hasn't done their inspections, and we're actually up to 2006 now. So that's better than being at 2001, which we was at for a long time. And we still got, 2008. We got 3 open from 2008, 2 open from 2010. So you're looking at 10 years or so, and then the ones coming up. So that's money we still got open inspections of $13,000. And then our historical data, you can see it basically fluctuates upon what kind of building projects we got in the county. Right now, obviously, we don't have any wind energy projects, so we're sitting at 24 million. 2018, when we had a wind farm being constructed, we was at $142 million. So it just varies on what type of construction's going on in the county. Any questions on that report specifically?
Bob, can you explain the open inspections? Is there a time limit for those people to complete those, or?
There is not.
Okay.
They have to start the building process within 18 months per our zoning ordinance. But as far as completing and what we found in the past, most of these are complete a long time ago. They just don't call us to come do the inspections.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
The 3 people that resigned, and I don't know, maybe you can tell us where we're at in the process on filling those spots and how you're dealing with quorum. And Bob, I just can't remember, did the state law change? Is it 2/3 of the people present and voting, or 2/3 of the entire board that you need in order to get stuff done?
I believe it's 2/3 of the entire board.
Okay,
And the thing about how many board members do we have lined up to be appointed, I'm gonna have to pass to the commission assistant director, because she's the one that assists us in the process of bringing new members on board through the application process.
so are you having quorum problems like tonight, for example, or is it going to be okay?
It should be okay. We are, anytime we have a short board, we always explain to the people, number one, that if they don't get their proper number of votes, it won't pass. And so that always gives them the opportunity to withdraw to the following month. And then number 2, it really helped now that we got the process where a county commissioner can step in if we got a county commissioner meeting. And then, other than that, I've seen no issue with it.
We have re-advertised the 2 positions on the Planning and Zoning Board, plus the alternate position as well. That actually closes on Friday at 5. And I believe that we do have applicants now for both districts. I can't speak to the alternate position. I don't know that there is an application submitted for that. But I do believe there are applications for the other 2 positions. So we'll be reviewing those and approving those at the next commission meeting.
And what has actually saved us, I understand where your question is coming from, what's actually saved us is the opportunity to call in. So we can have our board members call in and not be physically present. So that's what's keeping us above water. Next up, NACO. We talked about the NACO having their legislative conference coming up. I have got the opportunity to provide 5 county leaders an opportunity to attend the virtual legislative conference if you so desire, and that is cost-free. So I will pass this information on to the Commission Assistant Director. She'll be in contact with you, and if you want to go, obviously, there's no travel involved, you'd have to do it. Some of you may have been to the legislative conferences in the past, and some of you don't have a clue what we're even talking about. But it would be a good opportunity, at least from a virtual standpoint, and it's a long-running conference. I mean, there's various things going on, but it's between March 8 and March 26. I'll get this to Ms. Stephenson, and she can pass it out to you, and if you're interested in attending, you can sign up and do an experiment free, and they passed these on to me because of my position on the board of directors, is why I'm able to do that without blowing my budget. Okay. Because the individual price, and if you had to pay for it, well, it'd be $275 per person. Next up is points of dispensing. The hot topic right now in South Dakota is, when am I going to get my COVID-19 shot? If I want a COVID-19 shot, and if you don't want a COVID-19 shot, it's the least thing on your mind, and that's fine. We understand that. The points of dispensing, as of right now, the latest status on that is for us to instigate the pod in Brookings County. The consensus basically is we need 1,000 shots of the vaccine on hand before we can do that. The health system, Brookings Health System, is the group that gets the vaccine to begin with. They've been getting approximately 300, sometimes 400 doses a week, and they've been divvying that out. They've been doing 100, passing 100 on to Avera and passing 100 on to Stanford. At some point, we believe we'll be able to get the 1,000 doses at a shot. And when that happens, we will activate the pod. And we're doing preliminary planning on now. There's separate groups from my big PPCC group that we meet, and different groups are meeting and trying to get everything all lined up. The piece of the puzzle for Brookings County is going to be feeding the pod. Once we activate it, the workers that work there, and they're allowed to be there anywhere from 8 to 12 hours when we do activate the pod. So I wanted to at least start the conversation with this board about purchasing food for them while they're there, because we don't want them to leave, and you know, if you send people home to go eat, sometimes they don't come back, especially if running something like that. So number one, we don't know how many people we're going to have, but I'm expecting between $800 and $1,000 at a time is what per pod, and that would be 100 people at however much I don't think we'll have 100 people in the pod. We don't know right now what we'll have. It could be anywhere. We're hoping to get 8 vaccinators going at a time, but then you got all the support people. It's just like in the Army. The people that actually fight in the Army is only a group of the infantry. But to get them guys up on the front line, you got all the people in the back doing all the support. Paperwork and you name it. And so I don't know exactly, have an exact number for you yet, but what is your thought about me? I've got money in my budget under a line called disaster. I was told never to touch it unless we have a disaster. And I realize we haven't declared a disaster. I did go to Pierre and I asked them, do we need to declare a disaster for us to spend, quote unquote, our disaster funds? And they said FEMA has declared a South Dakota disaster declaration as of April 30th, 2020. It's FEMA Declaration 4527-DR. And it's strictly for the COVID reaction. I don't know if we'll ever get a dime back from FEMA on this. Our biggest hope is that Department of Health would step up and support us to fund all the pod activities. But if they don't, I feel we need to step up and do it. And it's it, and I got money in the budget. So what is the thoughts?
On that, I would say absolutely. Not
Okay.
even a question, I guess, for my question. Has any county started a pod yet?
There have been, I want to say 2 or 3, they're listed as pods, but basically what they are is like McCook County. They got a gymnasium set up. Sanford came in and gave 300 shots, and then they left. And what the county did in McCook County, they helped them get a gymnasium, set the tables up for them. They came in, did their stuff, and then they left. As far as the pod as we know it, with our big group, no, we haven't had one yet.
Bob, I'm going to assume that this would be at the Swift Health Center, and you made arrangements for that to be.
Well,
the-
that's in our planning stages.
Okay.
I discussed it with the Swift Health Center that depending on, cost dependent, I told them what I could go to a local eatery and get the food for. And I told them if they could match the price, I'd be more than happy to pay them.
I think it'd be a good idea to just handle the food right through the Swift Health facility.
As long as, we got a
Yep,
got a
okay.
procedure, just let us,
We'll let you work it through.
if you don't mind.
Getting into the details, we shouldn't.
The main thing is they get fed, and we're not talking steak dinners here by any
No.
stretch. If you know me, peanut butter and jelly probably, but we'll make sure they can survive.
So Bob,
Yes, ma'am.
Paul Brazino on his, I think it's weekly thing he
Coffee
does
with
on
Paul, yep.
Facebook, he interviewed Jason Merkley this week.
Yes, ma'am.
And Jason said that he did not anticipate at this time that the pod would be activated. Is that, I think I heard you just say something different. I'm just curious if we're all in line with the same message there.
Mr. Merkley's in the meetings that I go to, and it was all based off that first statement that I made. Vaccine dependent. If we get 1,000 doses, we will, as far as I know, we will activate the pod.
Okay.
Because what's happening is the clinics couldn't handle, they can handle 100 doses here and 100 doses here and 100, that's 300. They might be able to handle the 400, which they're doing now. But from the discussions I've had, once it gets to that 1,000 level, they just don't have the staff. I mean, their clinics get, because their clinics are still operating as regular clinics for everything else. So, Mr. Merkley is in the same meetings that I'm in, ma'am. I'm not putting a date on a pod. I don't, like I say, all vaccine dependent. I'm trying to get the planning done, so when they say do it, in 24 hours, we can be over there doing it.
Do you have any information on, Brookings County for the vaccine dissemination is affiliated with that health agency that comes out of Huron through Aberdeen as opposed to Avera or Sanford? Why did we end up with that group as opposed to Avera or Sanford, do you know?
Oh, ma'am, that's a Department of Health matter. And as county commissioners, I'm sure you've got the ability to contact Department of Health, but it would be the director of the Department of Health would have to be the one to give the answer to that. I have, basically at this level, all I know is who receives the local vaccine for the county is all I'm privy to.
And that's a private agency out of Huron? Is that correct?
As far as I know, it's a medical, similar to what Sanford and Monument is out west and everything. I don't know the details.
And I guess I would ask Commissioner Krogman, have you talked about that at a hospital board meeting at all? Okay.
Would be that we have an independent hospital here. I think they have independent one in Watertown, and I'm thinking Huron might be independent, where the other, like out in Pier, it's Avera. So that's why they're covered by Avera. I think where their main hospitals are independent, that's where they're putting their stuff. Ones that are not hooked up to Avera, Sanford, and then obviously Monument has the West River area. So that was my thought when I saw that came out, that where they were sending them to were the counties that had independent hospitals that weren't associated with Avera or Sanford.
And the Silver Air Patrol is the one, they're flying the vaccine around. And of course, all the locations that do, they've got airports. They can fly it into Brookings if necessary. They can fly it into Watertown and Huron. So That answer I just don't know, and I wouldn't be able to find, but maybe as a commissioner, you guys can contact Department of Health, and I don't know. Any other questions on that particular? Moving right along, the PPCC meets February 11th. Our local emergency planning committee meets February 18th. We did test our iPods, that's that integrated public awareness system, in case we have a blizzard closure or tornado warnings that were sent out. We did test that for the month. Everything works fine. We got out our rapid card. Everyone, remember, when you become county commissioners, I made you little ID cards, but some of those are expiring. We're going to have to make new ones on those. And but we also got a rapid card system, which just produces a orange or pink or blue, whatever color card I put in there. And that's what we will use during the pod. For any pod worker, will get a card from us so we can identify, so people don't cut the line and try to sneak in and say that they're working there and stuff like that. If they don't get logged in, then we don't consider them a worker. And so we've tested that machine. We brought it out Friday, tested it, ran into a slight error. We had to go through the good IT people, and they supported us. And we retested it again yesterday, and everything works good now. And we are getting 2 phone apps for that, paid for by the state of South Dakota. So that's all good. We talked about the meals and the FEMA declaration. That's all I have. Any questions?
Commissioner Pierce?
I have a question on a different topic. There's a bill, don't have the name of the number for the bill, that has to do with conditional use permits and special exceptions. Are you following that at all?
I've contacted Mr. Todd Kays as of yesterday at 5:05 PM. He contacted me back. He said that's the same bill that they passed last year for the county, except that's only related to the city. So it's a city planning bill, very similar to what passed the legislature last year, ma'am. Because I asked him specifically, was there anything from the county that I need to brief the county commission on? And that was his reply. There is a bill, but it's the exact same bill that they did pass last year for the counties, but this year it's strictly for the cities. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Dustin?
Morning, how's it going?
Good.
Start with
Ooh.
the attendance. In the archery range, we had 100 people come through. Gun range, we had 115 since the last commission meeting, the 19th, on the 19th. We're still in full swing of all the events that we got going on. 4-H shooting sports, Arrow Mates, Brookings Pistol and Rifle Club, Big Sue Bowman, JOAD. Watertown Police Department actually came down and did some quals, and they loved the facility. They actually mentioned it to Sisseton, and they might come down and do some quals. So if we can get all law enforcement surrounding, getting them in there, that'd be great for the facility. Sheriff's office came out, they did some quals. 4-H, and we had a little company, AGC, American General Contractors. They came in and used our classroom for a forklift training for a couple days. Train, the HVAC company, they're going to install a duct heater in our duct piped over to the GF&P offices to hopefully give them some more heat. They're on the north side of the facility. Don't get a lot of sunshine over there, so hopefully that solves that problem. Also working with Train on a proposal for the classroom unit. Hopefully have that to you guys next commission meeting. Get that approved, get that going, if that's what you guys want to do. DVL was in. DVL Fire Safety, they came in and did our fire extinguisher inspection for the year, so we're good to go for another year. Working with Graham Larson. Last week, Stacy and I met. He's the grant coordinator with GF&P. So that is due, the grants are due March 1st. They don't do a multi-year grant anymore. They do just a single year, getting something together, and hopefully we get some sort of money to kind of offset those costs for the facility. We hired 2 new part-time people, part-time employees. We're still working on a start date for them, get them in, get them trained. We're cutting back on marketing for the year. Just trying to figure out where we want to take the place still. We're talking in our board meetings. We're working on a new mission statement, kind of starting from ground zero, working up. So we'll cut back on marketing. I'm still doing the Facebook page, our website. We're actually, the part-timers and I are working on a trifold pamphlet that I'm going to take to Runnings, Gas, and More, whoever handing them out at the front desk, word of mouth. Flyers for all the events, I'm taking those out and handing those out to Runnings and Gas and More in the exchange. They're putting them up. Everything's going great. I reached out to Jason Nelson again, who works with the outdoor campus GF&P about doing another archery shoot. He suggested we wait until summer to see what happens. So we'll revisit that this summer, see if we can't get them in there and get something going with them. We had 2 different groups come down from Sioux Falls this weekend to shoot in the range, and they complimented us on how we run it, how clean it was. I know we talked about a time limit in our board meeting about if we do an hour time limit due to COVID and all the people coming in to use the range. They loved that they weren't rushed. They were in there. They liked that they could stay in there as long as they wanted. They were still considerate of others. If there was a line, they were going to hurry up and leave. So we're still working on that in the board meeting as well, in our advisory board. That's all I had, unless you guys had any questions at all.
Any questions, Doug?
All right.
How'd your event go last night?
35 people. So, and everybody's loving it. We got a ladies league. I think we have 27 of them. They're coming in. There's some first-time shooters. They're loving the one-on-one training that Matt Olson and John Anderson, they're doing with the ladies. They love it. Hopefully that grows and we can get maybe 100 to 110 members. The mixed league, that's down. They're still coming in. They're 7 to 9. We only have, probably 10 of them, but hopefully we can grow that as well. But everybody seems to love it.
And I'm sure you're all well aware of, but some of the restrictions on these leagues was the availability of the ammunition. And Dustin, I mean, trying to keep ahead of it, but they've cut back the rounds that they shoot and everything too. So.
Doing 25, and I think last year they did 50 rounds. And that's working great too, because 7 to 9, that's only 2 hours. We got quite a few people running through there, cutting back on the number of rounds to get them in and get other people in. It's working pretty good.
Just to expound on, the reason for the limit is we've never really had a limit on there. But we had a situation at one time there where somebody brought in a lot of firearms and was there for 2 or 3 hours. Well, usually that's not a big deal when we have 12 lanes to shoot, but we're down to 6. So we only run 6, so we have the space and that kind of thing. And so that's where, we may turn around and say, you've got an hour, but if there's people, that are waiting because we've only can choose six shooters at a time, we may ask you to do that. But we haven't really decided that we have to put a time limit on it right now. But because of COVID, we may have to have some suggestions at the beginning of it and stuff too. So.
And I've informed the front desk gals and guys, hey, kind of let everybody know when you come in, you can shoot as long as you'd like. But if we do have people waiting, we'd like you to hurry up and be considerate of others.
And hopefully when COVID's gone, we can open the back up to 12 lanes again and maybe not have that issue. But.
Yep.
Thank
All
you.
right, thanks.
Sheriff?
I'm bringing my technical sidekick with me. And I'll talk while he's getting set up. Good morning.
Good morning.
Just a quick comment, what Commissioner Pierce talked about, what they said on the radio versus, the last 2 weeks, there hasn't, we have meetings on the phone and of everybody involved. In the last 2 weeks, we've not had a conference call. So I think sometimes, to my knowledge, right, Bob, the last 2 weeks, there hasn't been anything. So sometimes I think you're right that something could be lost in transit, somebody ahead of themselves before we're talking to the whole group. So I kind of understand that. And as we're getting closer to this, like, not really understanding why we're not having these conference calls and keeping appraised, because I'm concerned about security at these pods. I have limited manpower. It's in with the city of Brookings. I would think the police would probably step up and But I think I have some responsibility to have some manpower out there too and things, but just to keep things going. I took the second shot with no problem. Some of my staff have had their second shot and had some reactions and so forth, but I don't know, I take shots good for some reason. I think I've had, at my age now, I take every shot there is, I think, so, anyway. Things are busy at the jail. You know, I always want to commend Bart and his staff. They go through a lot with the expansion and how they handle all the comings and goings with 24/7 and so forth. And it seems like we keep busy with arrests. City police, all day long, they're coming in, it seems like, with somebody. And my deputies are dealing with, it seems like increased domestics. When I finally do the report, we'll see where we're at, though. But I know in the last 5 nights, the deputies have had 4 domestic arrests. They had 1 a night, and that's just on 1 shift and so forth. And so they're staying busy. Right now, we have 33 in jail. Over the weekend, we had 38, but we have a lot of coming and going with arrests that are, I call catch and releases. They come in, we bond them out right away, so forth, depending on their arrest. One of the things that I guess I don't want to get ahead of myself here. The school resource officer also staying busy, and we do have a little area on the second page for that. You know, in January, in the Volga School District, he had 16 contacts, he had 6 presentations. Elkton School, he had 13 contacts and no presentations, and then in the White School, 13 contacts. And what these contacts are is he had to get involved with the student somehow, either the student or the counselor to deal with the student. He's dealing with a lot of truancy. So that really, it's beneficial to have the school resource officer, but it also, it takes somebody out of my patrol area. But I always have a patrol deputy working. I mean, there's never no shifts to go without anybody. But if I didn't have that school resource officer, the patrol deputy would have to be in those schools handling those situations. So it's still a benefit for me to have the school resource officer, and I just want to let you know that that is working. And I think that saves the field deputy of taking some calls and so forth. But he stays busy with truancy. I think in one school he had 6 truancies that he had to work with and get that taken care of. Also, we have had 2 deputy sheriff openings. We tested for that. Had a lot of applicants, but you can screen a lot of applicants. And I think we invited 30 to come test. 10 showed up. 10 out of 30 to show up. And I don't know how many applicants we had total, but a lot of those applicants are, I mean, I had police officers from Pennsylvania and California and all these places, but they're not going to come to Brookings probably to test. You know, they're probably sending out hundreds of applications and they pick and choose where they want to go. We did offer a job to Isaac Sauter. He's currently a deputy sheriff in Han County, that's Miller. It's kind of nice to get someone that has previous experience. I don't have to send him to school. Plus, he already knows how it is to work alone, because my staff works alone. They're their own supervisor, investigator, counselor, or whatever situation they go into. It's kind of nice to get another deputy sheriff from a smaller county because they know they're going to work alone. And so he'll start the 16th. He's from the Hamlin County area. His folks live there, so he wants to get a little closer to his folks. And after we did some backgrounds on him, he has a lot of friends and relatives over in the Ponset area, and so I had a lot of when we did backgrounds, there was a lot of people I could do to find out what kind of person he is. Also, just something to think about, and when Bart will talk a little bit about this in a second. The opening of the jail is just around the corner. It's in September. So I've given Bart the task, met with his staff to start planning for staffing and some other things that we need to do. Now, you know that the county commission is in charge of the jail. I operate the jail for you, oversee the jail. The jail is you guys' by statute. What I would like to see, or the possible request, or it's not even a request, for something for you guys to think about, is that if we can maybe have a small jail committee, again, with either one or two commissioners, that we could meet on a Tuesday right after the meeting, because I've asked my staff to come up with some staffing scenarios. First of all, what do we need? Minimum staffing. What do we have to have for minimum staffing? I feel we're probably going to have to utilize some part-time employees. You know, I would like to go all full-time, but just talking with other jails, they still have to utilize some part-time. You know, how many full-time staff am I going to have? And Stacy, I'm working with Stacy to come up with a figure for what it's going to cost us for a correctional officer. We're going to have different scenarios. Also, I want to have different scenarios for time, 8-hour shifts, 10-hour shifts, or 12-hour shifts. Some jails are going to 12-hour shifts. I'm looking at jails that have going to have the same amount of population that we have, the same kind of setup with our control area and things like that. So it'd be nice, since it's going to be a money thing. I thought I was going to have to prepare for 2022 and come forward with staffing, but it looks like that we could probably September. And then I would like some help from the commission to say, okay, what are we going to do? Are we ready to take on other business? Probably not right away. Do we wait till January to take other contracts? I contacted the 4 sheriffs that surround me, and they want to come yesterday. You know, so we're going to have the business, but am I going to be ready for the business come opening? And I think it's time to have some discussion. I need some guidance from the commission, especially when it comes to spending money, because we're probably going to have minimum staffing if I have 30 people or if I have 60. So why not contract out and have them help pay for this and so forth. So one thing about it, if I open this up, we're going to have the business, but it's just, when do I open up? We got to make sure my staff is trained. Policies, we got to change policies. Policies are going to be different from the old jail to the new jail. And I'll quit talking here shortly, but I just would like to see if a commissioner or two would like to meet, not every Tuesday, but just when we get some preliminary plans to run it by those two commissioners, and something to think about. You don't have to make any decisions now or something, but I want to make sure you guys are on board, because Bart and me have a different idea of what we need in some areas, but it might be budget things, because now we don't have budget for 21, but we'll prepare in April to have a good budget for you in 2022. I am also going to contact the U.S. Marshal Service just to ask them if I understand that Sioux Falls is already full. You know, Lincoln County has contracted 100 beds from them, and so forth. So, you know, I think if the jail population stays where I'm at, I can rent out about 30 beds. But however, this is a bad time to estimate jail population due to COVID, because I may be down in numbers just because of COVID. You know, once we increase again, and I'm sure that will come. The investigator that I put in his position will work drug stuff a little more, so I could see some increase with some of that stuff and things like that. So there's a lot of variables here, but anyway, I just was thinking that would help to have a commissioner or two as we go through these plans and so forth.
Okay.
So anyway, go ahead, Bart.
What are you saying is going to happen in September?
What's that?
What was the September comment you made? I didn't,
September, we're looking to get into the building in September.
I have
In the
21.
news part.
The addition
addition.
will be completed at the last week of August this year. We have the month of September to move into the new facility. At the end of September is when they start to do the remodel on the existing jail. So September, we've got to move.
I had not heard that. That's just amazing news.
Well, it was the middle of August. We got delayed a couple of weeks, so.
And again, you know, as you look at moving into that first phase where the cells will be, there's a heck of a lot of work to do in phase 2 too, to complete the facility. So I don't want to go renting out cell space or contracts until the complete facility is finished and we've learned how to run it, so we don't have some issues with it. So I think you want to be a little bit careful of looking at that type of income until the complete phase two is done. So
Yeah,
it's
and I,
just,
and I agree.
Yeah.
You know, after the first of the year or whatever the case may be, I don't want to start taking on business when we're not ready to
right, right.
run our business yet, if that
I
makes
think
sense.
it's
So
going to take some work just to make sure you
I'm just,
occupy phase one.
yeah,
I'm not quite sure how you're going to handle that yet myself, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
going to be a process, no doubt.
Yeah. And I think that's where the commission would benefit from us to getting together and talking about these things. Because I'm anxious. I'm anxious to get into the facility and to, but I don't want to get too anxious, and that I want a smooth transition going in and getting our biggest thing is going to be change for our employees. We're going to have to retrain our employees to work in the new facility. So there's going to be a transition time. So I understand that. So,
Well, Marty, I'm liaison to the sheriffs, then if Stacy would sit in on this meeting, would that, or do you want two commissioners?
It is fine. Stacy can be the liaison to you guys, but sometimes commissioner input is nice too, at the time. So I know you guys are busy, so it's whatever you want. We'll try to work it so that it's not, you don't have to come in on a Wednesday, we can do right after this meeting or whatever we could just sit down for 15 minutes, after the meeting. Yeah, but it's up to you, but Stacy can be the liaison between me or the jail and Stacy and then you guys too.
We do have a couple of commissioners who are kind of jail committee members. I mean, Mike Bartley is 100%. And then I know for our jail progress meetings that we have every other week, Larry and Angie kind of go back and forth on those depending on availability. So I would think that, I think it would be beneficial to have at least one commissioner sit in on those meetings, if not two. But I don't know what that looks like for people's schedules, but I think that would be very beneficial. And I am more than willing to sit in and listen and add my input as well.
And
I
you
mean, I'll
brought
try
up a
I'll
good,
try and attend every meeting, but if we need two, we have two alternates over here, either Larry or Angie.
Yeah.
If either one of them can make it, we can fill in. So that you've got two.
and that might be a good time to do it, is maybe, we've got 2 meetings a month with the, like we did last week. So maybe, those last, maybe a half an hour sometimes at tops. So maybe we meet after that point.
That would be
Yeah.
good, yeah,
Meet-
after
just meet
those
after
meetings.
that.
Because we're all.
Because everybody's already there.
Everyone's there and we
That
can
was gonna
just
be my
kind of
suggestion.
continue on the discussion from there. I
Yeah.
think that's a good idea.
Because
So
we'll have-
anyway,
we'll have
my-
fresh information at that point to,
Right.
So anyway, I just wanted to let you know that I am, working on the neighboring counties and things like that. So it's in their head and their commissioners and so forth. So go ahead, Bart, you can take over.
I
We,
just had to, can I ask a question?
Sure.
When you're talking about staffing and in the new addition with that command center, are you going to know in advance before you actually have operated that, how the staffing's going to work for that?
Yes.
Okay.
It'll all be in the plan, yes.
Pardon me, it'll all be,
It'll all be part of the plan when it comes to staffing, yes.
I'm just curious because it's going to be so different from what you've got right now.
It'll be a lot different.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot different.
there'll be a lot of on-site training in that facility from
Yep.
the security
Yeah.
company that we've hired already.
Yeah, and movement, we're going to have to figure out when our busiest times are, because our busiest times can be any time, but there are some times that are their busiest times. What I can do with minimum staffing, when do I do, it might be a gradual, you start out minimal, and then as the day goes on, you increase staff in areas, and there's going to be a lot of cross-training. Right now, the 3 that are working, the 2.5, 2 full-time and a part-time, they're all in the control room. But in the new place, you're going to have, they're different places. You have the booking area. How many do I have to need in the booking area versus how many I have on the floor? Versus I also have to have a person in the control area at all times. See, so then putting it all together. So we'll have a flow chart and have some different scenarios. When I work with outside 8 hours, I'm also going to have to work with the with the union contract because they're set at 8 hours. Anything over 8 hours is automatically overtime. So there has to be some type of understanding with the employees and the union that if we go to more 10-hour shifts or 12-hour shifts, that don't become overtime after. So there's a lot of variables. So there's a lot of work to do and before we get going. Okay.
We got some shots yesterday. It's easy to see things from the ground level, but it's nice to see things from a little bit higher too. So got some of this yesterday. I won't go through it all. It's almost 15 minutes long. But just to give you a little bit overview of some of what's going on. You can see that they've already got some of the steel girders in place. The plans are once they get some of these other walls, you can see the one partial wall there, and I think they've almost got all of that in now. But they're going to end up covering this area. The place right there in the middle is where the kitchen is, and they're wanting to get that covered so they can start actually working on that area. These pieces go in pretty neat. If anybody's had the chance to watch these actually go in place, I've got one here towards the end of the video. They go in and they're almost 10 feet wide. Some of them they're well over 20,000 pounds. They get it set in place. This one just got set in place. The crane's still hooked up to it. They get it welded in place, and then they move on to the next one. It's pretty quick. It's pretty neat to see how it goes up. We got a side shot looking from the west, just to show some spacing in between the courthouse and the new facility. Just to give you a little bit of a view there. And the south wall and west wall here, that is what the outside of the building will look like. Here's them getting one of these only come 2 pieces at a time on the truck. And so then they get it. It's pretty neat to watch how they lift this thing around. It's with the pulley system and other, they just get it, and it's like nothing for them to do this. They get this thing stood up, they unhook the one cable that keeps it steady, and then they just bring it on over into place. Crane operator has full control of the day. If the winds are too high and stuff, then he's the one that gets to make the decision whether they're going to be doing anything or not.
And really, they got minimum staffing out there right now, just to get what they need to get done. But once they get really rolling, that's when more people are going to start, more employees are going to start rolling in too. And
The reason they wanted to cover the kitchen area is they want to do all the underground plumbing, electrical work and get that floor in there so that they can do that. They're going to heat that and they'll get that accomplished. It was going to wait until later in the process, but they decided to move it up since the walls were a little bit delayed, just so everybody knows that there's work being done all the time.
Yeah, they're not wanting any downtime. So with some of the delays and some things, then they have increased work in other areas so that they're staying constant and getting something definitely moving ahead.
anyway, that gives my drone people some flight experience also.
Did you email that to us?
Yeah, we can email you the whole thing.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
As long as it'll go through email. If not, nothing else, may have to do a downloads, especially. It's about 3 gigs big. So we'll figure out how to get it over to you guys. I'll work with IT and we'll get something set up.
And again, we're available for Bob for zoning issues if you want to look at drainage issues or anything to fly over. So we need the flight time for training. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to regular business. Item A, Action to approve resolution number 21-03, a resolution designating the contact person to request assistance land fire coordinator pursuant to South Dakota Codified Law 41-20A-11. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
And a motion and a second. Any comments?
The last time this resolution was updated was in 2003. We received the attached letter, I think was also included in there, asking us to update this, and Emergency Management Director, Bob, would be our contact for this.
Okay. No other questions? Call the roll, please.
Krogman?
Aye.
Boersma? Aye. Pierce?
Aye.
Bartley?
Aye.
Jensen?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item B, action to approve resolution number 21-04, a resolution setting weight limit enforcements on Brookings County highways. Do I have a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any comments from the highway?
When do these go on again?
It's all going to depend on weather. Typically, it's when we start to thaw out in the spring, and you know, last couple of years it's been late. They've been on for about a month. You know, from anywhere mid to early to mid April typically, and we coordinate with other counties around us to try to correlate with them to implement them at the same time.
And then we advertise it, that they're going on, and put them on websites and all that good
Yep.
stuff. so
And
people
then
know.
Linda sends out an email to the folks that sign up, you know, letting them know. They contact our office and we let them know when they are going to be in effect. And we also, at the end of, you know, when we're going to pull the signs, we also let them know.
Any other questions? Call the roll, please.
Boersma? Aye. Pierce?
Aye.
Bartley?
Aye.
Krogman?
Aye.
Jensen?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item C, action to approve agreement number 21-04, a state of South Dakota consultant contract for provision of community health services between Brookings County and the South Dakota Department of Health, Family and Community Health, Child and Family Services. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any comments?
There was just a 2% increase to the rate. That was the only change with the contract this year.
Call roll, please.
Pierce?
Aye.
Bartley? Krogman?
Aye.
Boersma? Aye. Jensen?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item D, action to approve agreement number 21-05, an agreement for voluntary right-of-way donation between Brookings County and Twyla Eggers for project number BRF 6312, parentheses 0018-1, PCN 06VH. Have a motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Comments?
This is temporary and permanent easement agreements on the south side of the Sinai Bridge.
Okay. Any questions?
Just real quick on that, there's two driveways there on that. I got Lesnar on the north, and trying to think, there's an acreage there that used to be the Eggers acreage there. Are we going to have any issue with ingress, egress for them?
When we met with these landowners, you know, we addressed that on, we know that those driveways are gonna have to move to enter their parcels, so that's something that the county highway department's gonna take care of right away this spring prior to construction.
Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item E, action to approve agreement number 21-06, an agreement for voluntary right-of-way donation between Brookings County and Sean Lesnar for project number BRF 6312, parentheses 0018-1, PCN 06VH. I have a motion approved.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other comments than previous?
This is for the north side, and like mentioned earlier, Ryan, he has a driveway to enter that parcel on the north side, on the west side of the river, and we're gonna be moving that driveway just outside the construction limits when that bridge is being constructed, and that's where that drive will remain permanently.
No further comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item F, action approved change order 002 for the detention center project. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Comments?
The full packet included all of the different revisions that were included with this change order. There were several different things totaling $9,759. Plumbing revisions to overflows and combo units, addition of masonry, chase walls, kitchen utility revisions, and revisions to precast and storefronts at the east entry.
Any questions? No question or comments? Call the roll, please.
Bartley?
Aye.
Krogman?
Aye.
Boersma?
Aye.
Pierce?
Aye.
Jensen?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item G, action approve the right-of-way certificate for project number BRF 6312, parentheses 0018-1, PCN 06VH. Have a motion approved.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Comments? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item H, action to approve the utility certificate for project number BRF 6312, parentheses 0018-1, PCN 06VH.
Move approval?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other comments?
I reached out to all the utilities, even the ones not included in this certificate, and they're either outside of the construction limits or the utilities have already been moved. The only one that we're going to have to work with during the construction will be the transmission lines that feed the Madera Township, or the Madera power pedestal out there at the corner of 19 and 12 there. And they're discussing whether or not they're going to relocate those or just put in a temporary drop while they do that construction. So all the utilities have been contacted. The ones that are going to be affected are going to be addressing that earlier this spring.
Okay. No other comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item E, or I, action to approve a request to fill vacancy for Deputy State's Attorney. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Comments?
Commissioners have any questions?
Stacy, have anything else? Nope.
No, just due to the resignation of Paige Peterson in that office.
Okay. No further comments. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item J, action to approve a request to fill vacancy for a full-time female correctional officer.
Move approval.
Have a motion?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments?
Just due to, again, due to a resignation in the office, in the department.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item K, action to declare item as surplus property to be transferred or disposed of. Have a motion approved.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes. So the departments have been conducting their annual fixed assets. This is something that they do each year. I am in the process of cleaning those lists up. I noticed 2 items. There was a M600 desktop computer. It's asset number 17-132. That computer was actually transferred from the BCOAC to the sheriff's office. And then, so we'll remove that asset from the BCOAC asset list and we'll put that on the sheriff's office list. The other transfer would be 3 sets of table and chair racks. It's asset number 79086, number 79089, and number 79088. Those sets of table and chairs were transferred from the extension office to the weed and pest department. So I will make that change. I couldn't find anywhere in the minutes that this was approved. And so that's why we're going to do that right now, so we can kind of clean that up and make it official. So those will be just 2 transfers. And then the second one is several items that you can see. Again, I couldn't find anywhere in the minutes that they were officially disposed of, and so we're just cleaning that up and doing that right now. So that way I can make the changes, do it the correct way.
Any questions?
I'm just curious if we're doing something with our department heads to remind everyone that we have to do this process when we move stuff around.
I think, yeah, I mean, annually, we check this, so I think as things are getting caught, and we'll remind everyone that they can't move things around without getting the approval done first, so.
Okay. No other comments? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item L, action approve changes to the sick leave bank policy. Have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Stacy?
So you can see the first part of this with the red shows kind of what was deleted, what was changed, and then the clean version is below. This actually opens up our sick leave bank policy to make it a lot less restrictive than what we've had it, allowing employees to donate an unlimited number of hours, and then no limit to the number of hours also that can be maintained in that sick leave bank. Both of those had limiting numbers on that before. And then just some other, the one other change to note is it was always just a one-time request for employees. They could only ask, the way it was worded, it appeared that they could only make a request one time in their during their employment with the county. So now we're saying one time every 5 years for employees that have been with the county for a length of time. We did discuss this change with the union representative, and they were okay. They were okay with these changes. So,
Any questions?
Are the amount of hours, so it's up to 80 hours they can ask for, right?
yes, that stayed the same. They could, per request, is a maximum of 80 hours.
Okay. Any other questions by Commissioner Pierce?
I have a question for Dan. I read that when it came out in the packet, and it appeared to me like, I just want to be sure we're not saying that somebody has a right to those 80 hours every 5 years. And when you read that, do you have any concern about that from a legal perspective? I read it one way and then I read it another way, so I wanted to be sure that because we want it to be in the discretion of the commission.
You're talking about canceling out the word may in there?
No, I'm talking about where we say eligible employees may request hours from sick leave bank one time every 5 years. However, special exceptions may be granted by the county commission at their sole discretion. I'm worried that it sounds like you can request hours and be entitled to them, that maybe we need to say that again in there. But maybe I'm being too overreading it. That's what I'm concerned about. I don't want anybody to read it and think they're entitled to the 80 hours.
the very first sentence of that paragraph leads with the commission having full administrative control and the distribution of any hours from it. The only other thing that I could see is putting in verbiage that speaks to the commission authorizing that last sentence
No, I,
up to the 80 hours or something, that if you wanted to approve, if the request was 80 and the commission approved 40 hours, for instance, that would be at your discretion, something along those lines to
think that
clarify.
makes sense.
But
Sense is fine. Distribution of any hours.
Do you think we're covered?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item 9, Commission Department Directors Report.
attached to my report, if you recall from the last meeting, we had some questions about the fund balance information. A lot of this is, at the end of the day, it really is just a timing issue because we haven't closed out fiscal year 20 yet. That won't be done until either later this month, or it may even be the first part of March until that's done. So even the numbers that I'm showing you here today aren't finalized because there was maybe still some bookwork yet to do that will affect the fiscal year 20 budget. So that negative balance in the emergency management fund, however, they do have the cash that is more than what that negative is. So it will close out in the black, if that makes sense. And then, because this report is just showing fund balance, it's not showing the overall trial balance that includes the cash. And then the unassigned fund balance line, that will also be negative in the general fund, and that's due to we needed to assign so many dollars to get us down underneath the 40%, and then the commission wanted to get us close to that ending year of 25% surplus. So that's why that's negative. Now, when we roll at the end of the year, which will actually go back to 1/1, even though we're going to do that here at the end of February or the beginning of March, that unassigned fund balance then will go back into the black. So it's just sort of a timing issue. I actually had that discussion with Rod Fortin about, is that okay? And he said, yes, that will happen at times. So nothing to worry about there. So really all of this is sort of a timing issue, is what this really amounts to. And some things, overall, we don't want anything in the red at year end, but the fund itself won't be, either general fund, emergency management, wherever you are seeing some of those negatives. So any questions on that?
I have a question, and I think this ties in on the general ledger, where we've got all those items that are for 2021 that are still in the red. Is that related to this then? Does all that flow together?
All of the individual budget lines that are still, that
Right,
say,
because-
they're over budget?
On the GLS ledger, there were a lot of different accounts that say yes on the over budget. for-
Yes, some of that will be, yes. So, because right now, everything is still going against the 2020 budget. So it may look like some of those are over. Now, will there be some that will be over budget at year end? Individual budget lines, because that's what you're seeing, and that is each individual budget line down to the object level. Some will be, but their overall department level budget is fine, is in the black.
But I'm
So,
talking about the 21, so, and we've got all those categories where it says amount budgeted 0, and then
We-
we've got them,
we haven't rolled the budget yet.
Okay.
We're not even affecting 21's budget officially because that's not the budget that's active in our general ledger right now, because we're still trying to wrap up 20. So 21, once we get to end of February into March, then we will basically install the 21 budget. And then things that we've done, payables and things like that, that will start to then show the correct budgeted amount. Again, this is something that will go away if we go to a cash basis reporting. It's a lot less confusing.
When you were talking about the cash basis reporting,
Yes,
you said that an item appears when the invoice is received. On cash basis, it would normally be when the check's cut. Is that, I was just curious when you were talking about that. If we go to a cash basis, is it when the invoice comes in?
yes, yes. It's not necessarily when we receive. So right now, the way we do it, if we receive the item, whatever we purchased, in, say, fiscal year 20, by December 31st of 2020, whenever we have to, we want that invoice to come in because we'll still pay it and kind of push that back. So now it's when the invoice arrives. So if we get something in December, but the invoice doesn't come till January, it'll get paid out of the next year's budget. This really only becomes an issue kind of that very first year that we transition to this, because there's going to be a little bit of some overlap there. And it's going to be a little bit of a learning curve for our department heads who are used to saying, okay, well, I have this much at year end and I can still get this, but not necessarily. If the invoice doesn't come, even if you're thinking, oh, the invoice will come in January and I'll push it back to the prior year, that's not going to happen anymore. So there's going to be some education, but these numbers basically come the first week of January. Everything will be closed out. The annual report will be, it's one thing. I think you put all your numbers in and it pre-populates things almost for you, and it's done, and we can move on into the next year within a matter of probably a couple weeks, rather than waiting 2 months in order to do that. So there will definitely be a bit of a learning curve. I'm not saying that it's going to be perfect, right away, but I think once we get through the transition and that first kind of year-end, new year, after we do it once, I think it'll be much, much easier for everyone. So, but any other questions with that? Otherwise, I've created a spreadsheet. I think Commissioner Krogman had asked about detention center, the financials. And the financials, if in code, it's kind of all over the place. So I wanted to kind of show you what we've been doing over the years. So the first part is revenue. In 2017, we started the 304 fund, which is our jail project fund. We transferred some money in from 301, the building fund, to give us some cash revenue. Since then, since 2018, we've been collecting a property tax levy, anticipating our bond. So that shows there, and then some just other dollars, just some of those delinquent taxes, penalties, bank franchise, things like of that nature. So then in this year, or in 2020 rather, we have the bond proceeds are showing up there as well now. Expenditures, you can see from 2017 moving forward, professional services, it was the architect's fees all along, and some other professional fees are, we've had some survey work done, some geotechnical things done that don't fall in, that have been invoiced separately. So those are some of what those other fees are. And then construction has begun then with, Henry Carlson and the construction costs. So you can kind of see where we're at. And then I broke out both BKV, the architects, and Henry Carlson, our project management firm, their contracts, their contract amount, and then what has been billed and what's left to bill. So you can see with BKV, we really only have $167,648 left to pay on that contract. And then Henry Carlson, their guaranteed maximum price started. We've had some change orders. I don't think I have the change order that was approved today included in this because it hadn't been approved yet. The contract sum and then what has been billed to date and what's remaining there. And then the bottom is our fund balance assignments showing the money that we have assigned are the bond proceeds, what we have left, or what we have for funds to pay for this project. Any questions on that? And I will continue to update this and give this to you monthly, thereabouts, so we can kind of keep. Anything else you'd like to see on this?
No, just a quick question. We're going to use bond funds to pay the first before we start pulling money from us, right?
We have to spend the
Yeah.
bond down first. So we're not going to transfer any of that general fund or the 301, the building fund dollars into 304 until we have spent the bond.
And that's what I kind of figured that.
Yeah.
Right now, the bond funds are in there.
Yes.
So we're going to do that down, and then we will transfer other funds needed.
Yep.
Is that something we budgeted for? Is that something we already have in there, or are we going to have to do a special?
So what we have been budgeting for is 7.4 million is the bond amount. So you're going to see that because we've kind of been waiting to get that bond to move that project forward. So really this project we didn't know we were officially moving forward until like August, September of last year. And so you'll see even in the 21 budget, it's going to just say 7.4 million because that's the bond amount approximately. So we kind of just threw in a number there to give us some budget authority. For 2022, we'll be doing a lot more, getting a lot more specific with our budget numbers for 2022. And with that as well, we anticipate the project will be complete in 2022. So we'll be able to kind of adjust that accordingly within the budget. Now, as this year goes on, as 21 goes on, we'll probably be spending more than the bond amount. So we'll have to do some supplemental budgets, budget resolution, supplemental budget hearings to move some of those dollars once the bond has been spent, to move dollars out of, my recommendation will be to move it out of the 301 fund first, and then tap into the general fund dollars last. Not to say that they aren't going to be needed, but do that last because whatever is left in that budget in 304, if there's money left over at the end of the project and the final bills have been paid, the project wraps up and we're going to close out that fund, those dollars actually would roll back to the 301 fund because it's a building project. We can't, I think there's an argument to be made we could maybe move some back to general fund, but that's a discussion for a couple years down the road for now. But
What are our contract arrangements? I just don't recall with Henry Carlson. How will the remaining 13 million, what kind of increments does that get paid in?
so they submit payment requests every so often. I don't think there's any really routine. When they start getting all their bills and from their subs, then they submit an overall request to us for payment. That actually first goes to BKV, our architects review that, and then it comes back to me. I am aware that it's going to the architects prior to, and then architects say, yes, we approve this, and then I submit it to pay a bill, and we pay that one claim to Henry Carlson, and then they pay all of the subs out of that. There's no really routine payment process or schedule in place. It's kind of as Henry Carlson gets the invoices from their subs, then once it gets to a certain point, they send it off for payment. So, and we've seen a few of those come through. Like I said, we've paid about 1.2 million so far. So, so anything else on that?
Thank you.
Yeah, I will continue to keep that updated as we move along. Sean, I have some things. I know Sean wants to visit with you about some things. But a couple of things before I turn things over to him. I did hand out the executive summary. There's some handouts in front of you this morning. That executive summary, again, Chad Nelson, our project manager for the project, he submits that actually along with the payment request about monthly, so you can kind of see his updates there. And if you do ever want him to come and speak at a commission meeting, he would be more than happy to do that, but right now he's providing these monthly summary reports for us.
And I didn't say this before, but the video was wonderful. I mean, that was really helpful, I think. And I don't know that we necessarily need him to come if we're going to see stuff like that. That was great.
Yeah. And if there is ever anything that, you know, we during those progress meetings hear something and we think it would be good for him to come, even if it's just quarterly, maybe, and come and give a progress update in person, so you can ask some questions of him. We can sure do that too. And one more jail item also before you. It's titled PCO number 012 for $12,165. So at our jail progress meeting this past week, we found out that the cell units were spec'd as stainless. And Mike and Larry can jump in here if I say something wrong. They were spec'd as stainless steel. And what I believe the jail personnel want, and what we had discussed, was using like that white powder coat. I'm looking, I guess, right now what we want from the commission is a consensus to move forward. You will see this as an official change order coming up down the road here, but the cells need to, we need to get this information to to Cornerstone, our jail people with the cells, in order for them to get moving on this, if you would prefer to go ahead with this change order for the white powder coat on those cells. And Mike and...
Well, just as a kind of a follow-up, you know, we had all requested that somewhere it got dropped, the specs, and Cornerstone spec'd it as stainless steel rather than the powder-coated white. I believe the change order, their estimate is around $12,000. They had originally told us they thought it was a wash. Obviously, I didn't believe that, and obviously it's not true. It's about a $12,000 upgrade, but we're talking 40 cells. So, or 4 million, not 40 cells, $4 million worth of cells. So this is a $12,000 upgrade if we want the white. And I believe Bart still would like to go with the white. And it was our, as we looked at the jail cells that day, it was our opinion to go to that. So without everybody's approval, we didn't tell them to go ahead. So the question before you is, are we all right with the $12,000 upgrade? Because that's their estimate. And I am on a $4 million cells.
And in discussions at our meeting, that was the preferred, that was preferred by the jail personnel as well.
I just have a question on that, and I'm in favor of that. That's what I thought we said when we walked through the cells. But what I can't remember is, so once we have that powder coat on there and we have an inmate that keys the coating and stuff, can that be repaired? Is that?
That could be repaired. The walls are powder coated also, so it's a similar process to repair it if they have to repair it. If they scratch up the stainless steel, you're stuck with it.
Yeah. So the powder coating can be fixed.
Well, it won't be re-powder coated, but it'll have
Right.
a repair, so to speak, probably an enamel of some sort.
Thank you.
But I see a lot of shaking head, nodding heads, so I will pass that along to Chad so we can move forward then on those. I know he was anxious to get that information from you folks. I also have before you this morning, the 2021 spring workshop, the SDACC spring workshop, and don't pay attention to my public notice date. I had February on the brain, and I put February. It's actually March 17th and 18th. I'll change that, fix that moving forward. But March 17th and 18th, the tentative schedule is attached as well in that handout. They are doing this in person, and I do have rooms reserved out there at the Ramkota for actually Tuesday night, the night before. That is a commission day, meeting day the day before, but Tuesday night, because this does start, the first agenda item starts at 8:30 in the morning, so for Tuesday and Wednesday nights out in here. So if you know now that you will plan to attend, I will start this registration process.
Have they made any arrangements for people to be able to attend long distance for any of those sessions?
I could find out. I don't know. I have not heard that.
I would not be going because that's during the period where we're expecting COVID to really be flaring. And there are a lot of things that I would like to hear and I would watch on Zoom and participate in that way. And I think I might not be the only commissioner in the state that would feel that way. And I'm hoping that there's a possibility for people that want to participate long distance to be able to do so.
I will reach out and ask. Does anyone else know that they plan to attend in person right
I'll
now?
let you know.
Larry? Mike?
I'll let you know.
Okay.
I gotta figure it out.
I will try to get some additional information on that from Chris. I have been, lastly for me, I have been now for the last week or so attending some of the COVID marketing meetings, and there's a couple different groups, but I attend those each week. And kind of the biggest thing, kind of to reiterate what Bob was saying, you know, with the pod, it is going to be based on the quantity of vaccine that we have. And the thing with our COVID vaccines too is we can't get it, and the Department of Health really doesn't allow any entity to stockpile vaccines, so they have enough to do a pod exercise really right now. Because as soon as you get it, they want you to get it. They want you to get it into people's stick arms. What?
That was my question, because I was looking at the information that you send that Jim puts out, and it says we have 2,775 doses in the county, but only 1881. We're almost at 1,000 unadministered yet. Was there?
And that's among all entities,
But
though.
but they also have to, people that's got the first shot, they have to have vaccine to give them the second shot along before they do the pod.
Okay, so they're waiting a little bit to get to that time frame with a few of those
Well, yeah,
guessing.
I think they got a program.
set up. Okay.
Right.
Because you get your appointment, when you get your first COVID shot, you get your appointment for your second one automatically. So they have to account for those before they even think about the pod.
Gotcha. All right, that was my.
And the administered number of doses are actually first and second doses. That number includes both. That's not just first time doses. So that number is for both. So, but yeah, so it's really based on supply and demand, and there's a lot more demand than supply right now. So, the other piece of that marketing is just coming up with a unified message among all of the entities here in the county, the city, the health system, SDSU as well as a part of that. So coming up just with a unified message and really getting that information from the health system, because they are really our local experts that we're looking to get information out. Other than that, the dates, President's Day offices will be closed on the 15th, and as I said, it's actually March 16th through the 18th, the workshop out in Pier. And just before Sean comes up, very last thing, just a reminder, the soup off is today. So if we're still here, it starts in about an hour. You're welcome to partake in the soup off today. So that's all I have, unless you have any questions for me, but Sean has one item to talk about as well.
Sean would like to come up?
Well, I'm mostly just here to inform you that I'm working with Bob on a possible grant opportunity for some cybersecurity, hardware and software. It is something where in the event it doesn't, we don't get the grant, I'm still looking at pursuing it for the county as either, it isn't a budgeted expense for this year, so it would be either something supplemental for this year, or I'd be budgeting for it in 2022. Depending on what you guys would approve. If we want to get into the details of what it is, I'd rather go into executive session because it is a security concern. But we're looking at very basically something that goes between the internet and our users, in addition to our firewall that actually scans all the traffic that comes inbound and outbound. And will actually look at things that are accessed, downloaded, and if they look malicious, initially it will alert, and later on we can set it to actually block suspicious suspicious files that people are trying to download, or suspicious code that's being sent through the network.
Roughly, what's the cost on it, just roughly?
Low end for 1 year is $14,000 based on what we've seen. A very high end product is about $20,000 a year. Not really too keen on that one with Eric so far, with Eric and I evaluating the various things. The one that we're looking at recommending is $20,000 for 3 years. And that's with a hardware purchase and 3 years support upgrades with it.
Is your grant application for a specific amount, or what are you asking for in the grant?
No specific amount as far as I know. The South Dakota Department of Emergency Management says that they need to use 7.5% of their monies toward cybersecurity grants.
Okay.
If we would get a portion of that or any of that is still unknown until we apply.
If I may assist Mr. Plowman, it's the Homeland Security Grant. So much of the money has to go through cybersecurity, and then so much of the money has to go through law enforcement. So I'm also working at the Sheriff's Department. We basically apply for what we actually need in the county, and then there's a meeting where, unfortunately, it's part of our Region 6 Office of Emergency Management region. So we've got 10 other counties, and they're vying for money also. So it just depends on how much money is given to our region, and then we prioritize each one of our lists. And if we can't get the full funding requested, we can hopefully at least get partial funding for the project.
I'd say to proceed as,
Yep, yeah, I just wanted to keep you guys in the loop, since we're going for grant monies. No matter what we decide, we will be presenting it to you in a meeting for your approval, or any additional questions, or if you just say don't do it, we can do that too. A separate aside, I did speak with Jail Administrator Bart Sweeby, and we'll be putting that entire video on your Box account for you to access, rather than trying to find it any other place. We're just going to add it to that folder so you can pull it up just like you can with your agendas.
okay. Thanks, Sean.
That's all, that's it. The end.
Okay, moving on to item number 10, State's Attorney's Office report. Dan?
Yeah, Darla Beal with Brookings County Youth Mentoring had reached out to Stacy and I late last week, just notifying us of a grant opportunity. It's called the Second Chance Act. It's a Department of Justice grant for local municipalities. She had identified as a sub-recipient of the grant. Brookings Police Department would be the primaries on it, and then there were several organizations, both governmental and nonprofit agencies, as the sub-recipients of it. What it is it's a program aimed at, I guess, providing treatment to children, minors, whose parents are incarcerated. So I told Darla, too, to include the Sheriff's Office as well as DSS as part of that. So it would be children that are identified as individuals within Brookings County who have parents either at the penitentiary or in jail, and making sure that they have, if there's trauma needs there, if there's counseling, if there's mentors, if there are other needs that these children have due to their parents being incarcerated, that those needs are met. And the reason we sent off that email late yesterday afternoon is because we thought Darla had indicated that the grant application was due February 19th, and they needed disclosures relating to federal lobbying. And Stacy and I weren't sure that Brookings County is necessarily involved federally in terms of lobbying that's going on in Congress, but possibly with the National Community Counties Association.
NACO.
There may be some disclosures there. So the reason we sent it off to the commissioners yesterday afternoon is because we thought we were running up against this timeline. Darla communicated to me after we sent that email that it's not due till actually mid-March. But nonetheless, we still need the county commission's approval to enter into the application. As I understand it, the grant would not be awarded to Brookings County. It would be awarded to the city of Brookings. And so they would be the ones to administer it. But because we're involved in the application cycle, all these other entities, they still wanted these disclosures to take place. So we were going to ask either Bonnie or Versino who they're listing as their national lobbyist. I'm not sure that we have one, but we were going to track that down and send those materials off to Darla to be included in this grant. It's a 3-year grant process. The first year is kind of developing the framework. Second year is implementation, and then the third year is actually doing what the grant is designed for. So it's kind of a multi-year deal, and that's assuming you get it. But if the county commission's okay with us at least signing on as a subrecipient, we'll get those documents sent off to Darla to be included in the application. So,
You want a consensus? Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, thank you.
Commissioner reports and discussion items. Commissioner Pierce?
On February 20th, I participated in Capitol, and I think a lot of you listened to the DOT presentation, which I thought was interesting. The rest of it was interesting. It worked out really, really very nicely, and I think, I can't remember what the attendance was that Kelsey said, but I think it was over 100 people that participated. And then on January 25th, I participated in the County Commissioner Legislative Update with our state organization, and just walking through what's going on out in Pierre and how that impacts the counties. On January 27th, I participated in the Legislative Update with Public Affairs, with the Brookings Chamber Public Affairs Committee. And lobbyist Matt Krogman, he does those every Wednesday at 4 o'clock. And if you're interested in participating, anybody that's a chamber member can call in for those calls. And it's not Zoom, it's, I don't think it was Zoom this time. I think it's all on call. But those are available to any of you if you would like to participate in that. I listened to the District 7 Legislative Forum Zoom on January 30th, and Commissioner Boersma did an excellent job with being the moderator for that, and that was interesting. Yesterday, I attended in person the drainage meeting, and we're working on our final report, and Mr. Hill had submitted a draft, and we went through that, and we're going to have another meeting March 1st to look at the second draft so that we can submit it to the commission as a whole in April as decided last time. That's all I have.
Commissioner Bartley?
2 weeks here, January 20th, the Zoom meeting with Brookings Day. I was able to jump in and out of it several times, but caught most of it. And again, a little bit odd doing it that way. It's a little bit different than going out there, but you did most of it. On the 28th, it was a jail meeting. We've already discussed most of the things that we did at that jail meeting, and we'll continue to attend those, and that's my report.
Commissioner Krogman?
Yeah, January on the Zoom meetings, they went well. I thought the people who spoke to us from the state did a nice job. They really explained a lot, and it was a lot of good info, and I thought it was well worth the time, put it that way. So, January 25th, had a couple meetings, had the BCOAC board meeting. They started a little early for me there or something like that. I don't know what to do. Oh, okay, I might have been 5 minutes late, but anyway.
12.
12 minutes late? Okay. Anyway, we'll move forward. Anyway, it was a good meeting. Really working towards keeping up the membership there, and a lot of people are using it, which is good. We're starting to get some traction outside of Brookings County, which is nice to see. We all would like to see people traveling to go to that place and use it, and so Dustin's doing a really good job keeping us up to date and working really hard on it. And he does do a great job keeping that facility clean, and it looks great every time we go out there. And I think we're getting a lot of compliments from that. And so that's just a good step in getting all those positive remarks. And we do have a great bunch of volunteers, our RSOs. We're getting more and more RSOs. We're getting some that used to be our RSOs, then kind of stepped away. Now they're coming back again. So we're seeing that, and that's a good thing. And the archery range are really starting to pick up the use of that too. We're seeing the Big Sioux Bowmen, their numbers are expanding now. They've probably added 10 new members this year. They're getting more involved in that archery side and stuff there too. And then Joad also, considering, COVID and stuff, Joad's gone pretty well also. So we're just, hopefully, like I said, when COVID hopefully clears up a little bit, we'll be able to fully utilize it with as many people we can get in there. So otherwise, going well there. Brookings Health meeting that evening, talked a lot about CARES money and different things like that, of what they're receiving, and their budget at the end of the year has turned out good because of that CARES money, and so that's a good thing. They're not in dire straits or anything like that. That money did come in handy for them to be able to balance their budget and do well. So then the 27th, we had a beta meeting. And again, they're talking about their CARES money and their funding. Their ridership is definitely down, and they don't know for sure how much money, where their funds are coming from. It's kind of all up in the air. But we continue to work with the school on the joint bus facility there. We put together a MOU with them, and they're discussing it at their board meeting. The school is. And so when we're having attorneys take a look at that, make sure we're on the same page, and so it's a slow process, but hopefully we'll be ready to go when a grant opportunity comes up, and we'll be in good position. So that's it. That's all I have.
Commissioner
I had to jump in and out of several meetings that stay at the Capitol, and then also had a ICAP Board of Directors meeting that same morning. On the 21st, we had an E911 meeting. I think that went well. I trying to figure my way around that whole system and just kind of understand the background and the history of that. The 22nd was similar in terms of trying to understand the history of something. So I met with Andrew Sloss to kind of get caught up to speed on BEDC. The 25th, we had a Brookings Behavioral Health and Wellness Board meeting. And similarly to the kind of Brookings Health System, kind of talked through the end of the year CARES funding, things like that they were eligible for, as well as a handful of new state grants that are available. Mary Beth Fishbeck, the executive director there, let the board know that they pulled in about a $200,000 grant at the end of the year. So that really helped out make the kind of year end look really great for them. And so things are kind of up and running well there. They're functioning super well. The 27th was a BEDC board meeting. So kind of get up to speed with all of the things that are going on there, a whole bunch of subcommittees and all kinds of people. So part of BEDC's goal for this year is making sure that they increase recognition and membership. There's an awful lot of confusion, I think, in the community about what role membership in BEDC plays. And so trying to work on some of their messaging to make sure that they can encourage more folks in the business community to be invested in the economic development of Brookings on the whole. And then on the 30th, moderated the District 7 Legislative Forum, which was kind of a fun departure from my normal Saturday morning. Did that via Zoom. There were approximately 42-ish attendees. I think a handful of folks kind of popped in and out, but there's a good flow of questions. I think it went well for that first Zoom forum. And so that would be the report.
Okay. On the 20th, attended the day at the Capitol. Franklin Center was leadership Brookings people there, and it was kind of interesting. On the 21st, started out with the E911 meeting that morning. We a little bit communications problems. We had some issues, but I think our next meeting will be in a conference room. We can get a little more done. We had a few issues there, but I apologize, Commissioner Bors, and I didn't get her introduced to the rest of the group, and it's kind of hard to explain everything. So we're going to have the next meeting in the boardroom over here. So on the 25th, had an advisory board meeting out at the BCOAC. As Ryan explained, it's going good. I've had some good reports from 4-H advisors, how good a job Dustin's doing also. Seems to be working well out there. On the 28th, at a jail expansion meeting, I sat in for Commissioner Boersma. It's kind of interesting getting back kind of in the loop of things, and we were in a room in the back. It was a little chilly, but I think they've remedied the insulation problem back there, and hopefully it's a little warmer back there. But that's all I have for a report. So move on to item. Accordance with South Dakota Codified Law 1-25-2, parentheses 1, and 1-25-2, parentheses 4
4.
and 6.
Yep. For personnel, contract negotiations, and security.
Have a motion to enter into executive session.
So moved.
Second?
And a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.